right. So we're gonna get started with this. I'm just letting you know all about our organization. EKco Nation. We are a local charity, and we look at how social media, music, and the internet impact the mental health and behavior of young people. We want to build awareness on how there are negative influences in these spheres and how they impact and drive certain types of behavior that can impact how our children's brain develop, can impact their mental health, can impact their spiritual health, their behavior, their culture, and how they relate to their families and function in communities. All right. So we've been around for just about 8 years or so. And our mission is really change the culture, change the future. We are passionate about technology and youth and all the arts. As you heard, I'm involved in all these things. And we imagine a future where our families and our children or young people are able to engage these tools in a positive and confident and safe way, right? We're not saying that social media is of the devil and music from hell. We're actually saying these are all wonderful tools, but how we allow them to impact us and how we engage them is something we need to watch for. And parents, this is something that definitely you need to pay close attention to. The world is rapidly changing, and we're no longer living in just a normal community. We're living in what we call a digital community. So we not only just have, from the time we have an email address or a social media account, we're no longer just natural citizens anymore. We are also digital citizens with profiles and IDs and all these different types of things. And I want us to take away from this presentation the importance of helping our children, as well as you guys helping them to value their minds, to value their future, and to honor God. Value their minds, realizing that if we do not take responsibility in what we allow to enter our minds, we would realize that we have children that we don't recognize. Value their future is that if they don't maximize the opportunities that they have now to learn and to utilize all these tools, they are going to go through life and realize at some point in time that, hey, I wasted a lot of my time. And honor God. Whether you are in the room or not in the room, we want to allow them to, we want to encourage them to set standards that basically are positive and that are wholesome in spite of whoever is over their shoulder. So that's what we really want to achieve in all that we are doing. All right. So the questions I want to ask you guys to think about as we go through this presentation, we have a couple of questions. As parents, even for teenage parents, all right, for parents of teenagers, sorry, are we leaving our children exposed to inappropriate content and contact? All right. As parents, the same way how we would want to ensure that our children go wherever they have to go safely, we would teach them don't talk to strangers, be careful of certain types of interactions. Are we doing the same thing? Are we forgetting our responsibilities when it comes to the digital world? Are we teaching them how to use devices wisely and safely before even giving access to them? All right, we wouldn't give our child the car and the keys and say, all right, you rode there, go and learn and figure it out by yourself. But we do that with these devices, and we don't recognize the power and the potential of these devices to shape their lives and to influence their thinking, their behavior, and a whole set of other things. All right. Are we doing, are we teaching them the discipline of when, where, how, and how long they should engage in these devices or stay on the internet? We give them the devices once again, but we don't tell them when to use it, where, how long. You should not have devices in the bedroom if that's a rule, or whatever the case may be. This type of content you should not look at. All these are things that as parents we need to recognize. These are powerful tools, and we need to set the boundaries. We need to set the expectations for them before just giving them the device. All right. Are we as parents well informed with the apps, the content, the ratings, and all these stuff, all the things that the devices can do before we allow children to use them? All right. We need to be able to do that as parents. We need to go and do our research. have an understanding of what they're being exposed to, so that we can help guide them through it and give them a reason or answer to why we have these stipulations. All right. Do we monitor and supervise what our children do online? Do we know how to utilize those tools? Do we do checks on them? Whether it is scheduled checks or surprise checks on them. All right. Do we put measures in place to safeguard them? There are tools that we can use to protect them, so that they don't have to just worry about protecting themselves. In terms of the practice, we have that monitoring or that supervision in terms of technology in place. And finally, am I allowing technology and devices to replace my parental relationship? One of the things that we recognize is that parents are really busy today. Life is so demanding, and children are turning to the devices because for them, they're not getting the attention at home. No one has time for them. Everyone is busy, or sometimes you're on your device. So the question is asked, who is parenting our children when they go online, when they're on YouTube, or when they're on TikTok or whatever? They are going to learn from all these tools. And if you're not teaching them values and spending time with them, they develop that relationship, and that person starts to influence them. All right. So these are all questions that we want you guys to think about as we go through this presentation. All right. First off, what does it mean to be EKco? EKco is the program where we talk about all these different things and teaching persons how to be good digital citizens. And it basically means to have sufficient knowledge and understanding how to use technology and the internet wisely, responsibly, positively, in order to learn, create, and participate in the online community. We cannot shun the fact that our children are going to be involved in the digital world, so we need to equip them. We need to teach them how to be good digital citizens. All right. The first thing we need to do before we get involved in trying to teach them that is to try to understand them. So I have 8 things here that people say define the characteristics of the generation that is coming up. All right. And you guys can tell me in the chat if you agree with them as I go through each of them. All right. It is said that this is the most materially endowed generation. A lot of our children have access to all these things that we never had access to: smartphones, tablets, smart TV, smart watches, game consoles, all these smart things, smart this, smart that. And it's like they get everything that they want. They have so many things that we never had when we were growing up. We were taught to be creative in our play. We would use stuff outside, in the plants and different things, grass to catch lizards and all that type of stuff. No, they have all these things accessible to them. So, do you agree that they're the most materially endowed generation? If so, put material in the chat. If you disagree, put no material. All right. So if you agree that this is the most materially endowed generation, put material in the chat. If you disagree, put no material. All right. And like I said, I want to get this feedback from you. I want us to understand each other and to be in agreement, because understanding this will help us to better to communicate with our children and to see the necessity for how to parent better in the digital world. All right. So keep those responses coming in. I think everyone has said material so far. The next thing we want to state, I don't realize that my camera is not, but don't worry about that. It is said that this generation is digital from birth. What that means is before they could say mama or dada, they know how to swipe left. They can't speak, they can't read, they can't type, but they know how to find their favorite YouTube video. They know how to operate your phones without you having to teach them. It is like they have this sixth sense in order to operate this digital technology. All right. If you agree with that, put digital in the chat. If you agree with that, put digital. If you don't agree, put no digital. All right. If you agree with that, put digital in the chat. If you don't agree, put no to digital. All right. And I know it was amazing. I remember when my daughter, she was like I said, she can't read, she couldn't spell or anything, but she was pulling up these YouTube videos, and she didn't have a device. We did not give her, she didn't have her own personal device, but she was doing it on mommy's phone. And I asked her, how did you get this done? And she said to me, Daddy, it is simple. You simply press this button here, which was the mic icon, and you tell Google what you want to watch. You look for it, you click it, and there you go. So she didn't need to spell. She understood how to tap that mic icon. And I did not teach her that. Her mother did not teach her that. Actually, she could do things in her phone in her mother's phone that the mother didn't even know she could do. All right. So I think everyone said digital. The next thing is said that there are entertainment addicts, that they will binge watch their favorite TV show. They will spend hours a day gaming or on social media or whatever the case may be. They do this. Everything is, I want it. I need to be entertained. School is boring. This is boring. They need to have their phone and engage in the phone when they're eating food at the table. They need to have entertainment, all these things. If you agree with that, put entertainment in the chat. If you disagree, put no entertainment. All right. If you agree, and the truth is that if some of us really confess, some of us are entertainment addicts. No longer do we wait a whole week to watch our episodes. We would prefer to wait till the season finish and watch all the episodes one time. If that is you, put me in the chat. If that is you, put me in the chat. You no longer wait a week to watch it. You binge watch everything one time. You want to sit and watch everything one time. You don't have the patience to wait for next week. All right. I saw one person said no entertainment in the chat. All right. Next, it is said that this generation is all about speed, speed, speed. It is fast everything, fast internet, fast food, fast this. Everything is instant gratification. When they go someplace, the first thing they ask for is what's the Wi-Fi password? Was this? They want to be connected, they want to do something. Everything is quick. It seems like they have no patience. All right. I have some people saying no entertainment. Oh, that's very interesting. Studious children. You have some children that do not spend a lot of time on their devices, and it has nothing to do with you. That is very good. So we have a mixture in terms of the entertainment. So if you agree that and with this whole speed thing, a lot of our children end up having low attention spans, very low attention spans. As I say, they get bored quickly. One of the things we realized, especially after COVID, when children came back into class, if you, I don't know if you realize, but they had to shorten the length of some of the classes in order to accommodate the fact that children were easily distracted now, they were restless now, they were very bored, and so on. So if you agree that our children are basically in this whole environment or mentality of speed, quick, everything, I want you to put speed in the chat. If you agree, if you disagree, put speed. All right. So if you agree, put speed in the chat. If you disagree, put more speed. All right. So most of you saying speed so far. All right. It is said that our children are globally aware, and this is obviously made obvious through the World Wide Web. Everyone is, and every device is almost connected to the World Wide Web. So they get a lot of, they follow their favorite artists or their favorite stuff overseas, everything that's viral, that's happening. They follow that. But one of the things that I realized is that a lot of the times they are globally aware, but locally ignorant. All right. So a lot of them don't watch local news. They don't read the news. They don't follow the news on social media. They only follow what is trending, what is viral, and what speaks usually their entertainment aspect of things. All right. All right. So do you think that they are globally aware? If you think so, put global in the chat. Like I said, one of the main reasons for this is their connection to the World Wide Web and the access to information that they have so easily. Whereas for us, in order for us to know what was happening overseas, we would have to wait till it came on the CBC News, or we have to wait till we see a tabloid or something like that. All right. It is said, so most of you say global so far. If you don't agree with global, put no global. All right. It is said that, we're going on to number 6, children are micro minors. Now, what that simply means is that you have to break down instructions into bite-sized pieces for them to understand. You find yourself repeating it a lot. And many times they only do specifically to the T what you tell them to do. So, for instance, you will say to them, um, if they're getting ready for school and their clothes on the line, you'll say to them, go and pick up the shirt from off the line, and they will go on the line. And although all the clothes on the line are dry, they have their all their school clothes on the line, and everything is dry. They will pick up that one shirt and bring it back. Or you tell them wash the dishes, and they see that as I washing only what's in the sink, everything that is around the sink and whatever else that's on the stove. Nope, you tell me wash the dishes, and that's what's in the sink. All right. Or in some cases, especially with teachers, if you are teachers here, you realize you have to repeat yourself. You have to break down everything so that they could understand. I'm going to ask one of the teachers here if that is true for them. Do you find that you have to break down instructions into bite-sized pieces for them to understand? Let us ask Mrs. Armstrong. Is that true for you, Mrs. Armstrong? Is that your experience?
Yes, please, generally.
Okay, so we have some mixture of parents who are saying micro and not micro. All right, so everyone has different, I guess, different children speak to different things. All right, and then finally, well, not finally, number 7, it is said that they want to be heard. That's why they ask the question, why? Why I can't have this? Why I can't go to this place? Why I can't do this and why I can't do that? It's the era of children's rights. I have a right to this. I have a right to my privacy. I have a right to the next and a right to the third. And for you, you're saying that if I did that back in the day, I would get one back slap. What rights? What? This and we want to sometimes you have to calm ourselves as to you being rude or you being disrespectful. And this whole thing of they have a mouth, they have a voice. All right, they want to be heard. This is the generation of way. If you agree with that, that this is what one of the things that define this generation, I want you put heard in the chat. If you disagree, put no. All right. Okay. I see someone said no. Most people so far saying heard. And as parents, I want you to understand this. And whenever I talk about this, I know some parents, because of how they came up, they will see it as the child is being rude and disrespectful and so on. But one of the things I tell parents is that if you look at what's happening, especially all the things that we mentioned before, our children are flooded with information, right? We're going to talk about part 8, which is they're connected and shaped by their friends. They value friends and family and relationships, and therefore they want to be part of a community. But not all communities share right positive values and share right information. So sometimes your child asks why I can't do this or why I can't do that. And we will resort to something that sometimes our parents did, which is to say, because I say so. In an information age where your child is flooded with information, that is a response that is not going to bear much weight in their minds. All right. I think it is very important that when your child has that why, that you're able to explain to them why. You're able to give them a response because you now empower them to represent your values when they get before friends or when they get in certain environments where their culture, the values and the systems that you have put in place at home is being challenged. So when the child, someone says to them, come and do some drugs, and the child says no, you say you soft, you this, that child stands knowing why it is beneficial for me to stay away from drugs. Why is it beneficial for me to stay away from certain environments or for certain actions? All right. So that is why we need to not necessarily stop them from asking why, help them to ask the questions a little bit better in a respectful way. But as parents, it holds us now accountable to be able to communicate to them why you are doing this. And they see your heart and your best interest for them coming out. All right. All right. So if you believe that they are connected and shaped a lot by what their friends do, I want you to put connected in the chat. If you disagree, put not connected. All right. If you agree that they're connected and shaped a lot by what their friends think and what they value, their friends and so on, I want you to put connected in the chat. If you disagree, put not connected. Right? I want to give you guys at least 10 seconds to get in your responses because I want to share what, when we have these sessions with children, what they are saying. All right. So we have some partials and we have some connected. All right. So far, we don't have no. And a lot of this also is reflected in terms of how our parenting is and the influence that we have in our children's lives as well. Usually, we are currently in about 3 schools right now doing a curriculum with children where they go through a lot of this information. And one of the things that we ask when we do on this slide, and I would say 99.9% of the time, all the children agree with everything that is stated here. All of them agree, even with the micro minors, even with the micro minors. And as I said, it is not necessarily that it is your child may be unique in a particular area because of your unique environment, but they recognize this generally about their generation. So something may not appeal to them, but they see it definitely in their friends. So there may be some people that because of their background, they may not have access to certain types of information. So they may not have internet at home, but they know, for instance, that everybody on the internet, but their home situation may be different. So that is something that we recognize that our children are saying, no matter where we go, no matter what school, they're saying that a lot of these things basically characterize who they are. Know that we understand this, you're going to understand a lot of what drives their behavior and the reason why they interact with their devices like that. All right. So, can I ask you guys, how many hours do you think, especially during the vacation, does your child spend on their devices? All right. How many hours a day do you think, especially during the vacation, does your child spend on their devices? I want you to put that number in the chat right now. A guesstimate. How many hours do you think your child spends on their devices, especially during the vacation? Someone says 14. Wow. I see most answers 16. A lot of people are at 6 and 8. I see a 10. 6 to 8 because they monitor the hours. All right. 16. Well, it could be more while parents are sleeping. 12, I see in 12, 10 plus. All right. So it is said that the average time children spend on their devices is 6 to 9 hours. However, this is one of the things that we ask students when we go to their classes, and we ask them how many hours a day do they spend on their devices? The majority of students say 10 hours or more. Some students will say even 20 hours. And for them, their interaction is that they are always constantly touching their device. And even when they go into their bed, they are even texting or doing everything or doing some other things in between sleep and wake. All right. So that is what we're realizing. And sometimes our children might be doing things that are constructive on the device. We sometimes they do it, they go on their devices for education to interact socially, especially during COVID. We saw the advantage of having the internet and a device to connect with others when we were limited from our face-to-face interactions. They go on to express their individuality for music and entertainment, and they develop new skills. But sometimes their engagement online is not driven by positive things. Sometimes the engagement online is being fed to them. In other words, they're automatically there, not understanding how they are why or not monitoring the time that they're spending. All right. Now, when we say digital media, we are talking about any type of content, including text, audio, images, or video that are of devices that allow people to share information, to communicate, or to collaborate over the internet or the computer networks. All right. So when we say digital media, we are talking about that. Just to put it in general. And it's important as parents that we pay close attention to this because their interaction with their devices will impact their mental wellness or their mental health. And when we talk about mental health, we're talking about simply how they think, how they feel, behave. All right. When we talk about mental health, we're talking about how they think, how they feel, and how they behave. So as parents, are we paying close attention to how they're thinking, how their feelings or emotions and how their behavior is changing based on their interaction with their devices? As parents, we need to help them to effectively manage their mental health and achieve good mental wellness. And that is having it in balance with other life activities in terms of relationships, and having it in good balance with their physical health, with their studies, their so we want them to enjoy life and to enjoy all of these activities, but in good balance, and to produce something called psychological resilience, which is the ability to rebound from adversity or the ability to recognize when something is detrimental to my development and I'm able to discipline myself or resist the temptation to allow that to control my activity or control my attention and so on. So, does your child have good psychological resilience when it comes to their interaction with their digital devices? Why this is so important as parents is because your teenage brain or your child's brain is still developing. So right now, there's a biological explanation for all the impulsive and irrational behavior that they have, where you telling them that you don't think before you do this, you just go and do things and don't think about it. There's a biological explanation for that. All right. Their amygdala, which is responsible for their immediate reactions and all this type of behavior, that develops early, and that drives a lot of their impulsive and that need for instant gratification, that need for speed, and entertainment all the time. That amygdala thrives on that. Whereas the frontal cortex, which says, hey, think before you act, that usually develops around the age of 21, anyway down to 25. All right. That's why for some of us, if we confess, we play the food during school, and when from the time we hit 21, 22, all of a sudden the light bulb goes off in our head, and we are like, you know, what's I play beer food during school. All of a sudden, you realize the need for being responsible, and you're thinking more before you do certain things. All of that is there's a biological explanation for that. And the other thing that parents need to understand is that your brain, the teenage brain, is still developing its circuitry and it is pruning as it grows. What that basically means is that if your child is spending 20 hours a day gaming, your brain is going to say, wow, we're gaming and let's optimize so that he could game better. And you'll realize that in your child's sleep, they could be gaming. Some parents told me about that, where they woke up in the middle of the night, saw their child gaming at the TV, and when they went to check, the child was sound asleep, but hands still going. And then we recognize one of the things that we recognize with this, with the heightened activity and especially with the entertainment addictions, children get really bored in school. So the ability to retain things in terms of long-term memory, they're disengaged in terms of learning. One of the other things that we recognize as well with this is that the motor skills and coordination skills start to go through the door. So he could game well, but he can't catch a ball, can't throw a ball, can't do certain things that we think everybody should be able to do by a certain age. But the brain is saying, well, hey, that part of my your brain is not being used. So I'm gonna start pruning those areas and focus on the areas that we're spending all of our time with. All right. So it's very important as parents, we monitor this. So the question is asked, how is your child's media balance going? Are they using the digital media in a way that is healthy and in balance with other life activities or not? So I'm going to show you a video. And at the end of the video, I want you to tell me in the chat if you think your child is healthy or unhealthy. We have 5 sections or 5 criteria that we're going to look at. And I want you to make a determination, is my child healthy or unhealthy? Take a look.
Here are 5 signs your kid has a healthy relationship with screens. Number 1, they're physically healthy and getting enough sleep. Number 2, they're engaged and learning in school. Number 3, they're pursuing hobbies and interests. Number 4, they're socially interacting with friends and family. And number 5, their digital life appears fun, positive, and even educational. For help managing your kids' screen time, visit us at commonsense.org.
All right. So I want you to put in the chat, is your child's balance with media balance healthy or unhealthy? Put it in the chat. Is it healthy? So if it is that your child is managing well with 3 or more of those things, I would say they are healthy to some extent. They are healthy. But if they are not managing well with those things, you will put unhealthy in the chat. All right. I see the majority of persons saying healthy. That's great. That is great. I would really love to do one of these sessions at Combermere School to see what your children say. Most of the time when we do this, we usually have a good balance of some children who are healthy and unhealthy. But the areas that they definitely say they are unhealthy in are the areas of getting enough sleep. All right, especially when at home they are allowed to have their devices in their rooms. So getting enough sleep, and then their digital life being fun and educational. That's another major aspect of it. We see a lot of children who are saying to us, especially after COVID, that they are not really socially engaged anymore. They're more comfortable with WhatsApping and texting and not necessarily with a lot of face-to-face interaction. So they prefer to hide behind their screens, and they'll hide a lot how they feel, especially in public forums. And a lot of teachers mentioned that as well to us, is that they realize children who were once very socially interactive before COVID, after COVID, they realize they're not socially interactive. All right. So um, thanks for your responses. Yep, devices in the room means very little sleep. All right. So the question I want to ask you guys: does your child's digital life have an impact on their real world? All right. If you think so, put true in the chat. Does your child's digital world impact their real world? If you think so, I want you to put true in the chat. If you disagree, put false. All right. And this is something that a lot of students have not really thought about until we mentioned it. All right. Can your child's digital life impact their real life? I see a couple people saying false. Most people are saying true so far. All right, so here are some of the ways in which your child's digital world can impact their real world. One, in terms of their image and character, depending on the things that they post and the things that they do, the comments and so on online, a lot, and even the content that they consume, people can make assumptions about what type of character they have or what type of person they are based on the things that they post, the things that they like, the people that they follow. It can impact their privacy and safety. If your child is not responsible with their information, their private information, that information could get online. Being online can be used by people who have no good interest for them, and it could really damage their privacy and safety. And you're going to see how this has played out in several areas, even right here in Barbados. It can impact their relationships. Have you ever heard about children talking about ghosting or outing or you left me undelivered, and how it makes them feel? I've done some counseling with some young people who were in friendships, and the person all of a sudden just ghosted them, and they were devastated the way how they went about it, and they were really hurt and all that type of stuff. And parents were like, what's this? What's this? What's this ghosting thing? All right. Well, let me ask this question. How many of you know what ghosting is? If you don't know what ghosting is, put not me in the chat. Or can someone tell me what ghosting is? So I didn't see any not me's. So I'm going to assume that everybody knows what's ghosting. Ghosting right now, ghosting is when someone, if let's say your child has a friendship or is in a relationship with someone, and then for no apparent reason, that person blocks them from all types of interaction digitally. So all contact, right? So they don't answer calls, they don't answer messages, or the messages are blocked. They unfollow you on social media platforms and all that type of stuff, all right? And that has an impact on our children's relationships. And then a lot of the things that they do online, things like cyberbullying, has a major impact on especially school relationships. We're hearing from guidance counselors now that a lot of the times, a lot of the conflicts that we have at school start online in chat rooms or in gaming rooms or whatever. All right. So it can impact their relationships. It can impact their academic future. A lot of the universities, but every school has something called a transcript. And I know that when there are instances of cyberbullying or stuff that involve your child's digital life that comes to the school's attention and has an impact in terms of their school life, that is something that goes on their transcripts. So I know of cases where, for instance, at this school, I'm not going to state the school, but there's this one young lady who was basically being seen for her good behavior and all that type of stuff, and she was going to be put in a leadership position because of that. But unfortunately, when they were about to do that, someone leaked her nudes, and it was that she was with a group of other students who were participating in something called a naked challenge at the time. And they were in a private chat sharing these nudes of themselves. And with that being leaked, it really jeopardized the school being able to endorse her into that leadership position. All right. And these things, like I said, go on the transcripts, and universities and colleges overseas, especially if your child is going up for a scholarship and so on, they ask the school for that. They do background checks on that. In terms of your child's future career, I know that companies today, I know someone who does this. Companies today hire experts who do social background checks, social media background checks on their employees to find out what type of potential employees, to find out what type of person they are. And if this is a person that I want in my organization or representing my brand and so on. And I know that there are people who did not get these job opportunities because, even though they were qualified, because of their online life. All right. And then things like your criminal record, we're going to talk about that. And even in terms of visa, when you're applying for US visa, they do background checks on you. They go through and scrutinize your social media life to see what type of person you are. And you are not anonymous online. All right. You are not anonymous online. All right. That's one thing I want you guys to remember. All right. So I know I haven't gotten into a lot of meat of stuff as yet, but I'm doing this so that you understand the importance of how the digital world is going to impact your child's real world, how it's going to impact how they're developed into being good students or not, how it's going to impact their behavior at home, how it's going to impact their emotions. All right. When we talk about digital citizenship, we're talking about your child being safe, confident, and positive with their digital engagement. And it includes the three C's: contact, how they are communicating with others, or who are they communicating with. All right. Talks about conduct. How are they participating in their online communities? What types of information are they sharing, or what are they doing online? And how is this impacting them? And then you talk about content. What type of content are they consuming online? And is it content, or what type of content are they creating and producing and putting online? So as parents, we need to pay close attention to these three C's. I will tell you, as parents, your child should not have you blocked, or you should not be following. If you've allowed your child to go on social media, you should be there to know what they are posting, what they're doing. You should be following them. They should not be blocking you from their statuses or anything like that. If your child is doing that, I would encourage you to desist from allowing them to have that liberty. All right. I can only tell you this based on a lot of the things that we know that parents at the end of the day say, well, I didn't know that this was happening, and I didn't know that my child was going through depression, or my child was going through everything, when the child is posting everything on their statuses. I didn't know that my child was involved in this and involved in that. Then the child was posting all the stuff that they're doing. We have parents who they know that their children were involved, sexually involved with certain persons, and these are minors. And the interesting is that the child is posting pictures of them in bed with their boyfriend or girlfriend at the point in time, and saying what they're doing, and that's what they're posting on social media. So these are things that as parents we need to pay close attention to. It's not only going to affect their careers and their school relationships and their relationships at home, but right now there's something called the Computer Misuse Act. Yes, they selectively block persons, and that's why as parents you need to check. You need to do that background check, or you need to check their phones and say, what's happening here? Why do you have me blocked? I didn't see you post this status. Because at the end of the day, parents, you need to recognize, as I'm going to talk about what the Computer Misuse Act and so on right now, you are going to be the person with the responsibility to manage any issues or troubles that come out of it. So as the person who's going to be responsible for managing it and helping your child manage through all these things, you should be the first person to be aware, to know, so that you could stop the practice, any bad practice, if it happens. All right. So the age of criminal responsibility in Barbados is 11. So basically, from the time your child is in secondary school, they're seen as having sufficient capacity to be punishable for the crimes they commit, which includes the Computer Misuse Act, which is the use of technology for indecent communication, threats, causing distress, imprisonment, and it carries imprisonment or fine. All right. And in Computer Misuse Act, go research it online. It covers a broad spectrum of things in terms of using technology to steal information, to threaten persons. So if a child sends a threatening voice note to another child, that is a breach of the Computer Misuse Act. If the child decides that they're going to use a device to impersonate someone and send threatening things, all these things are Computer Misuse Act. But one of the things that I think is the most concerning thing is the whole aspect of child pornography. which includes material that shows a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct, or a person who appears to be a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct, or realistic images representing a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct. And why this is important for parents to monitor on their children's devices is this. We've had countless stories of children sharing this type of content in school chats or in group chats or in certain private platforms. They're sharing this information. I have a situation where I know of personally someone who, at the point in time, who was advocating against cell phones being allowed in school. Two students came up to him and said to him, "Sir, you got to stop with this banning cell phones in schools thing. That's how I make my money." And he said, "Explain what you mean." And this is both a boy and a girl. So the boy basically is the photographer. He's pimping the girl. All these are both students, and they create content that they sell to other students, with her being sexually involved, or her selling, or her taking nudes. And basically they're telling the teacher, if phones are not connected, their point of transaction is going to be removed. So I want you to understand this is what's happening. And if at any point in time this becomes a police investigation, and really the digital forensics are involved, if your child is seen having that type of content, distributing that type of content, or producing that type of content, they are in violation of this act. And the device that they use, and device might be your device, because they are not legally allowed to go into Flow and have an account with Flow. So that could put you in danger. All right. So that's why it's so important as parents for you to understand the need to monitor and supervise this activity, because this can put you in danger. And right now, the law is going out basically saying that anyone having knowledge of any of this type of activity regarding minors must report it to the police or report it to the child care board. If not, they could be found in trouble with not reporting it. All right. So this is very important for you as parents to know and to monitor. All right. These things are happening. These children, this is something that children in schools know clearly is happening. They know who are doing it and that type of stuff. Many times when we share this information, you should see the look on their faces, because they have that type of content. And some of them will say, "I gotta go home and delete this," or "I gotta go whatever." All right. So take some time to monitor that. All right. The other thing that parents, especially with as it relates to the law, there's something called the Children's Online Privacy and Protection Act. We would ask students, how many of you have a social media profile before the age of 13? And most people will raise their hand. They will say, "Sir, I had mine from primary school. I had mine this and that." And I say to them, "All right, did you have to lie about your age in order to get access to these things?" They say, "Yes, sir, I lied about my age, or sometimes my parent is who gave me their access or whatever." And if you look at, some of us don't really fine print, but if not all of these social media companies say that you are not allowed to have an account unless you're at the age of 13, because they understand what the child may be exposed to, that the child can be groomed or manipulated. They understand that there's information that when you go online, they collect information on you, that they profile and they sell that information. I will give you a simple example. I have a cousin. You will see it more. The data mining is better in the States, but you still have it here in Barbados. But I have a cousin in the US, and I went to a particular data mining site, and I put in just her name. They asked me which state she lives in, just the state she lives in, and it gave them the state that she lived in. And this data mining site was able to tell me the Google map point where her house is, which I verified. possible family members, her date of birth, possible phone number, and email address. All this information. I called my cousin and I said to her, "Do you know that this information is online about you? Did you share this information with blah blah blah?" And they said, "I never share this information with nobody. I never blah blah blah." But simply through their activity online, the apps, the games, all that sort of stuff have been gathering information, and they profile you and they turn around and sell that information. That same site said that you could get a whole profile on that person if you paid about $2 US. You could get a whole profile on the person if you paid $2 US. All right, so it's very important that we understand the need to manage our children's privacy when they go online. All right, I'm going to show a video which is going to give you a quick snapshot into some of the things we have to be mindful of as parents, and then I'm gonna quickly talk about what can you do to help navigate this. All right, so take a look at this video.
In today's world, if you have children, chances are they've been on the internet. Have you had the talk with your kids? No, not that one. The one about being safe online. Does your child have any social media friends on their list they don't even know? If so, they've got to go. Does your child post things they shouldn't? Do they know those things can last forever even if they delete them? Encourage your kids to use privacy settings and to think twice before they share anything, because they never know who will see it. Do they share too much information about their name, age, or location? Some things should stay in the family. Online gaming can be one way that sketchy folks try to get private information from your kids. So be on guard. Teach your kids about using strong passwords. They need a different one for every site, email address, and app they use. Use upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols with at least 10 to 12 characters. A great way to create a strong but memorable password is to use a passphrase. Just make sure not to use famous quotes, music lyrics, or certain personal information like birthdays or addresses, because those will be easy to guess. And remind your children never to share their passwords with anyone, not even their best friend. Cyberbullying? Are your kids participating in it? Are they victims of it? Help them recognize the signs and know they can report anything to you or another trusted adult. Get smart about smartphones. In addition to being able to access the internet, some apps can do more than they probably should. GPS can be very helpful for finding your way around or finding your friends, but it can also allow others to find you. Tell your kids to limit these features to avoid broadcasting their location to the world. Also, check out apps before you download them to make sure they won't collect and share personal information, let your kids spend real money, or do other things you wouldn't want them to. Eliminate all sexting. That is, sending, forwarding, or even saving sexually explicit photos, videos, or messages from a mobile device. Sexting can do more than risk your child's reputation and friendships. It can even be illegal. Last but not least, make internet security a habit. Always use security software and firewalls, even on mobile devices. And keep your operating systems and apps up to date. Teach your kids about phishing, malware, insecure Wi-Fi, and how to recognize secure websites. And remember, have the internet safety talk with your child early and often.
Right. So I'm gonna close off by quickly connecting with some of the things that as parents I want to encourage us to have as good practices that or things that we need to be aware of when we are allowing our children to go online. One of the first things that I realized is that a lot of persons don't know, as I said before, that we leave a digital footprint with all of our online activity. All right. And we have information that's collected about us that we know and information that we share. But then there's information that we don't know that is being collected on us. All right. So we need to be aware that this can definitely impact our children, our family's privacy. A lot of our children know how to use their devices for entertainment, but they do not know how to use it for their personal development and education. And we recognize this, especially in several of our schools, where children don't know how to use the devices to do simple things like do a report or do research and so on, and to compose uh, presentations and so on. They don't know, even though they have access to all these things, they do not know how to use these various digital platforms. Things like even sending an email. Some children do not know how to send an email. All right. There, a lot of them don't realize that a lot of the things online are not necessarily true or real. And I think this is one of the things that really shape some of the behavioral practices that they have and the things that they believe. They think that everything on the internet is correct. That's why a lot of them get involved with internet challenges that can be very harmful and dangerous. There are some, yes, that can be positive and can help build family relationships and so on. But there are some that are very dangerous, and we are seeing more and more, especially um, we are seeing some unfortunate cases in the Caribbean where children are getting involved in these challenges for various reasons, peer pressure to fit in, for all that type of stuff, and they don't recognize the dangers that they have. And unfortunately, we saw a couple of children who lost their lives attempting some of these challenges. All right. We talked about who are they connecting with online. I know of situations, even in primary school, where children are being approached by strangers online. I think the most worrisome one I saw when I was doing a session at a primary school, and I was talking to them about have they ever seen a situation where and these are primary school children who are on social media, so they shouldn't be on social media, but they are on social media, and I asked them, have an adult ever approached you and offered you things like gifts or money or something in exchange for you to share information with them or pictures with them? And I think one of the most worrisome things as a young girl, she wasn't, I think she was about 9 or 10 at the time, or even less. She mentioned that when she was younger, that she had posted a picture of her and her little brother online, and some person messaged her and said that he was going to give her this gift if she allowed him to connect with her little brother. All right. So these are some of the things that is happening. And it's not only grooming from that aspect of things. I've seen several situations where there are people who target children and they groom them to certain types of behaviors. And sometimes that is family friends. Sometimes that is people that we know, and they're using certain techniques to groom them. One of the techniques that, like I said, is very worrisome is your child might be going through, let's say, challenges at home, and they feel that, you know what, I can't reach out to my mother or my father, they just don't understand me. They put that on their status. Groomers use that as an indicator to do something called emotional mirroring. They mirror the emotion in order to build the trust with the child, and then they start to sow certain seeds of like, hey, I want to share something with you, so but I don't want you to tell anyone. I want you to keep it between me and you. And they may share some made up private story, giving the child the ability to like, hey, if that person has entrusted me with that private story, maybe I can trust them, or they would trust me. And I've seen how cases like this led to some of our young women in Barbados being unfortunately sexually abused. They allowed that relationship. The person said, "Let me come. I want to come over." Well, the parents are away, and the child allowed that to happen. And when it turned out, the person was an adult male, and they threatened the child, they sexually assaulted the child, and so on. And these are several cases that have happened over the years. So it's not a one-off case. These are things that are happening. And we know of cases, for instance, like in Guyana, where they had a story last year, where the child who, when it was discovered that this child was being groomed by an adult male online, and the teacher decided that they're going to take away the phone or the device because the child was adamant she wanted to continue the relationship. She didn't see it as inappropriate. That child, in retaliation to that, she set the school on fire. So all of these things, and there's several other cases that I know of involving where children, all of a sudden, because of the mental health challenges connected to their device usage, parents not recognizing it. When the parents stepped in to put in some discipline or whatever, they don't recognize the child was already dealing with addiction, and something flips in their mind, and you may see aggressive behavior in retaliation, or you may see some type of behavior where the child decides that I'm going to run away or whatever it is. And these are all cases that we are seeing happening here in Barbados and across the Caribbean tied to their online activity. All right. What type of content are our children being exposed to? And a lot of times we allow our children, we are not monitoring what content they're seeing, and that could have some serious psychological influences on them. It could damage them psychologically. All right. We talk about sexually explicit, vulgar content. We're talking about content that promote violence. All these things that are very harmful to your child's development, but they have free access to it. So we have to be careful with this. And this content comes a lot of the times also in the gaming that they have. A lot of children have access to games that are rated adult or rated mature. And in these games, you have situations where they have access to pornography or extreme violence, a lot of obscene language, and so on. But then there are also games that groom certain types of behavior, not only in terms of the aggressive behavior in violent games, but I remember being at a primary school once again, asking the children what are some of the games that they are exposed to and they play. And some of them mentioned some life simulation games. We call them Sims, that these children are playing. And when I did my research on the games in particular that they were playing, these were games that rewarded the child, the behavior that they teach the children. They reward children for irresponsible behavior. So I remember there was this one game where, let's say the scenario is that you meet this cute boy in the park and he finds you cute and wants to make out with you. What would you do? Make out or do nothing? And if the child chooses to do nothing, the game penalizes the child. In other games, in order to do the right thing, you have to pay in order to do the right thing. All of this is grooming certain types of behavior in our children. All right. And we need to really take a serious look at this. All right. So what can you do as parents? Because of the sake of time, I wouldn't show the video that I have. But one of the things that we do at EKco Nation, we have something called a family media and safety agreement, which is basically a plan and an agreement between you and your child that says we will hold each other accountable to our digital activities. So both the parent and the child have a responsibility. All right. So the digital family agreement helps families live with their devices in a safe and positive way and prevent unhealthy habits. So we're not saying that the child can't use the device, but we want to make sure that they use it in a way that is safe and confident and positive. We want to help families understand each other's perspectives, expectations to avoid conflict. So we know that because our children are digital from birth, we can't keep them in a silo away from digital technology because it can help them develop. They're going to need it in school. They're going to need it in their careers. So how can we basically guide that? All right. It helps us to be both accountable, as I said, and it encourages a commitment to build stronger family relationships and value systems. So, for instance, one of the things that we encourage with this digital family agreement is that there's a time where the family will put away the devices and focus on doing things together, whether it's playing a board game, whether it's at the dinner table. We are not going to eat with our devices, and that's both the parents and the children. We're not going to have our devices. We're going to put them away so we aren't distracted and that we value each other's time or value family time. All right. So, as parents, we want you to set some goals. We know as parents, our duties are to protect, to nurture, and to empower our children. So, as we look at their digital life, how can we do that in protecting, nurturing, and empowering them in terms of safety and privacy, educating them? How can we protect their mental health? How can we nurture good physical health? How can we ensure that their brain development is positive? That we developing critical thinking skills so that they understand when they go online how to use the information and what information to stay away from. That they're digitally literate and can use the technology for their personal development and education. That they know how to protect their privacy and information online so that their reputation, their character, their relationships are protected and their practices are good so that it doesn't jeopardize future opportunities and have certain stigmas attached to them because of their digital life. All right, so as parents, we need to be vigilant. We need to build quality relationships with our children. As I said before, we realize that children said the number one thing that they value is their friends, family, and relationships. They value that. They value their families. Yet they spend most of the time on their devices. Why is that? A lot of them said to us because our parents don't have time for us. All right. So we want to spend quality time with them. We want to develop an interest for what they are interested in. So if they're interested in sports and they're playing basketball or playing football on the PS5, why not introduce, hey, let's spend some time going outside playing it in real life so that they have a healthy balance with that. So that you understand what they're exposing themselves to, and therefore you can help child look, this content is not appropriate for your age, or this game is not appropriate for you. I don't like this, and here is why. You are able to tell them why you think that is something that they should find something else to do. And give them a healthy alternative. Just don't tell them, no, don't do this, don't do that. Give them a healthy alternative. One of the other things is be slow to judge and quick to listen. All right. Sometimes when we discover certain things that our children are getting involved with, we get disappointed or we get frustrated or we're really angry and we respond in that way. And when we do that for our children, we limit our ability to influence them and to learn from them. All right. When we are slow to judge and quick to listen, we get to find out what is happening. So sometimes a child may access pornography. I mean, like, what's this you doing? And you fly off the hat. And it was a situation where they were playing some game. It was an innocent game that their other friends were playing. And they missed and clicked on meet some girls in Bridgetown. And it opened up that site. And a lot of the times when our children are pirating movies or playing certain games online that are free, the way how these people make their money is selling ads, and sometimes the ads are for adult content. All right, so we need to be quick to listen so we can understand what led to the behavior or what led to it, and then we can basically deal with it. So talk to them about their experiences and find out what they know. All right, we want to also encourage you to have an age-appropriate talk about inappropriate content. Teach them about thinking critically and to be able to talk to you about anything that they see that is it is that causes them any type of distress. All right, we want you to talk, have a relationship where they feel free to come and talk to you about those things. Set and agree to ground rules. One of the things that our agreement does is that the child understands that if there's a violation of this, what are the consequences? And it's not a situation where all of a sudden uh, this is unfair, this is whatever. They already agreed that I am going to use my device responsibly, and that if I use it inappropriately, these are some of the consequences of my action. All right, spend time together, and where necessary, there might be a situation where you need to get counseling for that counseling and support. All right. As some parents mentioned already, there are free parental software like Google Family Link that we can use and install it on our children's devices so that we can monitor and supervise what they're doing. There are also filters that you can put at the modem, or their VPNs that you can set up. I would suggest also checking your child's browsing history. Follow your child on social media, as I said, and you help them to understand it's not just that you're snooping around on them, but as the parent, you want to ensure that they are being safe, responsible with their engagement. All right, and where necessary, you need to report inappropriate content. So as parents, you have the power to make a better choice, and I pray that you would understand the need to really look and take careful consideration of what is happening in terms of your child's digital life and how it can impact their real world, how it can impact their mental health, how it can impact their behavior, how it can impact their emotional health, their physical health, and how it can impact their education and their future careers and so on. This is something that as parents, we need to manage. All right. So I want to thank you for listening. We've come to our questions segment. Are there any questions that any of you may have about anything that I would have said? If you do, you can either post it in the chat or raise your hand, and I will look to address that. Or you can turn on your mic as well and ask any questions. So I don't see anyone. I don't see any hands raised. So if there are no hands raised, I would turn it back over to Stacia. I want to thank you all for.
There's a question in the chat.
Okay, how do you balance technology with a child who's doing really well at school? I think you may want to. When you say balance technology, in other words, in your opinion, they are spending too much time on the technology, but they still have good grades. Is that what you mean? Okay, cool. All right. So the whole idea is to practice balance altogether. Right? The whole idea is to practice balance. So you want to maintain their good grades and so on. So it means that in order for them to do that, they also have to look at spending time there. And in hobbies and other things, there are other ways that they could develop themselves. It's not only just in education, but find other hobbies that they can get involved with. All right. And I think it is important that you don't allow them just because of good grades to have a free with all online. All right. I will tell you this story of a student. This was a case in Trinidad. A student who was A student. The teacher, because of their good teacher, the parents, because of the child's good grades, gave them a cellular phone, a smartphone. All right. Eventually, the child got on the smartphone. The parents realized that the more they engaged on the phone, all of a sudden, the grades starting to decline. And they watched it happen over the year. The grades, the behavior, the attitudes start to decline. to the point where the child came home now as a failing student, not doing well at all. And the parent, the mother at the time said, look, okay, I know what's the problem. Problem is this phone, you're spending too much time on this phone. She took away the boy's phone and said, until you get your grades back up, you're not getting back this phone. The child sat down overnight thinking about what it was his mother just did. And in the morning, he got up and physically assaulted his mother with a collings. And up, I think he severed her arm or something like that. And then went and sat in the graveyard. When the police found him, they found him sitting down saying that's unfair, that's unfair. His whole thing was it was unfair for his mother to take away his device, because of his grades. All right. So the parents did not realize at the point in time how that the unsupervised and the child's interaction was seriously impacting their mental health to the point where it could trigger certain mood swings and aggressive behavior. We have cases of children who say, for instance, that if you do this, I can kill myself. All these type of things happen, and it doesn't happen one-off. It happens where we have things unchecked, unsupervised, and out of balance. All right. So I still think even though the child is doing well, you need to balance their interaction. Balance how much time they spend on it, when they use the device, where they use it, and what type of things that they are allowed to do. All right. Daisy is asking, what system can a parent use to monitor their child on their devices? There are several systems that are out there. The free ones that we know, Google Family Link. There are some limitations to that though. But then there are some other ones like Custudio. I'm going to put it in the chat. Something called Custudio that you can install on the child's phone, tablet, laptop. It monitors all devices, but it comes with a cost. And as the parent, you are able to see a lot of this information of device usage and so on. And you could actually set time limits for how much time they could spend on a particular, for instance, or you could set time limits for when the child can use the device or what time the device goes to sleep so that the child does not have access to it when they should be studying or when they should be sleeping. All right. So you have Google Family Link, you have Custudio, and there are several others which are not coming to mind right now. Let me see if I have a note here. I may not have the note on the slide. Let's see if I have the note on the slide. No, I don't have the note on the slide, unfortunately. But these are there is technology out there that can help you supervise all of this. Like I said, some is paid technology. There's some technology that even allows the parents to know where the child is at. All right. And some parents found this useful, especially where they would drop off this child at a particular point, thinking that the child has gone to school, but the child hops in another vehicle and goes somewhere else. All right. And there are also some that allow parents to see the chats that children are engaged in and what they're sending out and so on. For us as an organization, we usually did not encourage using those type of things, because if you're at the point where you cannot, you have to be swooping in on your child's chat history and that type of stuff. It is a situation where you have a deeper problem in terms of the relationship and where your child is at from a behavioral and mental health standpoint and emotional standpoint that you need to deal with. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Over to you.